Hello everybody, welcome back to a brand new episode of F1 23 Driver Career Mode here on the channel. I hope you're all having a great day, fresh off of some last lap heartbreak there in the Chinese Grand Prix in the last episode where we came up just short of our first career victory there after a bit of a battle with our teammate Fernando Alonso. But we're coming into another track. We've kind of got a stretch of tracks right here where Aston Martin is going to be really strong. Of course, in China, Baku, which is very straightaway, top speed oriented, and as well the next episode in Miami, also very much so kind of based around high speeds, long straightaways. So we've got two big opportunities still to come with today and the next episode in Miami. We showed up to Baku. It was raining, unfortunately, for free practice one here on Friday as well. It is a sprint weekend, so a lot of options here for things to go right, but as well a lot of opportunities for things to go wrong this weekend here in Baku. We'll wait and see which side we come out of now. As you can see myself slipping and sliding around this Baku circuit. So this is the only practice we get before qualifying is in the wet. Of course, on a sprint weekend, qualifying is right after FP1, as well as that kind of messes up for this weekend because of the rain happening here. This is the only time it's supposed to rain this weekend. So Parc Fermé as well, of course, is locked once you go through into qualifying. So it was kind of hard to get an understanding of where I needed this car to be coming into this weekend because we had only practiced in the wet conditions. So we jumped through a little bit later here for qualifying. Completely different situation. The sun is out. It is shining. It's a beautiful view here as you see myself putting my helmet on and getting ready to put some laps down in qualifying. Since this is a sprint weekend, we're kind of roll through this a little bit quicker. So Q1, we cruised through into the top 10, so I was pretty happy with that. We were P7. On the exit there, it was Magnussen, Sargent, Zhou Guanyu, Yuki Tsunoda, and Lance Stroll. And then we would come through Q2 again, cruise through into Q3. It was pretty good. So, but a surprise name. Perez in the Red Bull, 14th place. He had a really bad first lap and did not improve, surprisingly, on his second lap. So he is going to be out in Q2, setting us up for a top 10 Q3 run. My first lap in Q3 only put me P6. I was really struggling with confidence in qualifying on my first laps in the dry, trying to find the pace here now, and I was finding a little bit of time. This is my final hot lap here in qualifying now. So we were down in P9, not very happy with where I was, and unfortunately you can see in the top right, there wasn't much gain, and there was a lot of time on the table. I was just having really sloppy laps here, just not finding the pace that I needed to find and the pace that I knew I had. I know we're going to be better in the race based off of what I'm seeing in qualifying. We find a couple tenths of a second. We dropped to P10, but to the line, it's only going to be enough for P7 here in Baku. It is not pretty, but yeah, our teammate of Alonso on pole position over Hamilton and Russell, while we are going to have to watch from the background and get after it in turn one on the sprint. We're going to jump straight through into the formation lap for the sprint race.
Here we go then. The formation lap is underway ahead of today's sprint.
Okay, Fernando, so it's pretty mixed between soft and medium. There's no hard starters. All right.
As all the cars take their positions on the grid, the final preparations have been made, and all that's left is for the drivers to deliver on track.
Alright boys, we struggled a bit there in qualifying, but honestly I think our race pace is going to be fine.
Be a hero for me on lap 1 here.
You hear as well, not only myself and Mark, but you heard Fernando and his race engineer as well. We're ready to go sprint racing here from Baku. The last few AlphaTauri cars are going to grid up, and we're going to get ready to go racing. So we're on the right side of the grid here. Now you see Leclerc on the left, Verstappen, Sainz, Hamilton, Russell, Alonso all up ahead of us. It's going to be lights out. We're underway here in the sprint race in Baku. 9 laps. It's all we got here. Now you got to get after it right off the bat. Leclerc tried to cover me off in a turn when I go quite cautious here through this first turn. Sainz nearly contact with the Red Bull of Verstappen now as Sainz is going to stay ahead as we head down through turn 2. Leclerc peeks the nose up the inside. Nearly some contact between myself and him, but we continue on. P6 now as we get a slipstream from Carlos Sainz as we look to make a move up the inside of the Spaniard as we head down towards turn number 3. It's going to be a very aggressive lunge up the the inside. We get the brakes there, thankfully, to work, so we avoid contact there, and we're going to take the position up into P5. That move, that was not a planned move. That was, I braked a little bit later than I thought I did, and I decided we might as well try the move or run into the back of Carlos, so it worked out in the end here now. So P5, we come through to lap 2, and you can already see myself trying to run down Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, who was hanging on to the back of Hamilton, but I was starting to close in on him, so he was starting to fade as the laps would go on in this sprint. We're on the mediums, while Alonso, he's on mediums. George Russell, he's on softs, actually. So the drivers on softs were actually starting to excel pretty well as Verstappen was continuing to fade down the order. This is a really quick sprint because not a lot happened, to be honest. I mean, we passed Verstappen, and then it was just trying to run down Hamilton, Alonso, and Russell. And we would do exactly that here. I knew our race pace was going to be good, and we were proving that in the sprint. Well, we have a whole 26-lap Grand Prix on the way where I think we can showcase even more race pace. But Hamilton would lose contact with Alonso and Russell. Our car tops out at 218 miles per hour, as you can see, and it sounds terrible when it does that. But now, Alonso, on the final lap of the sprint, going for a move up the inside of Russell. He started on pole as I go for a slip on the exit of turn 1 that allows Hamilton to get back into the mix. I give him a lane, but he doesn't even bother taking it. Russell on the softs, really just hanging on this final lap here now, but it looks like he's going to be able to maybe win this sprint. Hamilton, though, is not done fighting yet. And here he is trying to make a move, but no, he's going to back out from it, it looks like now, as he just stays in line. We close in on the back of Fernando here now, so second and third right now for Aston Martin. This would still be a solid day for us, of course, in the constructors battle against Mercedes as well. Of course, keep in mind our goal, of course, with the two teams working so closely together, is to get these 1, 2, 3, 4s as much as possible, especially in the first half of the season, as we do feel like we're going to lose some later in the season in the R&D. As you can see, we come through to cross the line in third. I was slipping and sliding around a lot on that final lap, so I was pretty happy that the sprint was ending right there. But George Russell hangs on to the sprint victory over Fernando Alonso, myself getting driver of the day. Hamilton there in fourth place just behind us. So the job's done for Mercedes and Aston Martin in the sprint, but we have a whole Grand Prix ahead. Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris, and Pierre Gasly there for Alpine picking up the final point. And now it is time to go racing on Sunday here in Azerbaijan.
A warm welcome to you all at home for today's Azerbaijan Grand Prix, a race that in its short history has already proven no stranger to drama, and where a fourth row start is just about as likely to give you a podium as pole position, with Lance Stroll and Sergio Perez finishing third from there in 2017 and 2018 respectively. Off the back of a fantastic qualifying session, it's time to see how our starting grid looks like for today's race. George Russell will begin today's event in pole position, and Fernando Alonso completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Golden Boy, Hamilton, Verstappen, Leclerc, Norris, Gasly, Albon, Sainz, Perez, Oscar Piastri, De Vries, Bottas, Sargent, Magnussen, Joe, Tsunoda, Stroll, and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. Now it's almost time for lights out, so let's go down to the track.
Quick word, Gary. Another track that suits the Aston very well. You think you can get that first win today?
Yeah, I hope so. You know, it was so close last time out in China, so this track is going to be great for us. I think we can do it. You hear myself and Ted Kravitz now, so we're ready to roll. It's going to be simple. We're going to be doing the mediums to hards. I don't want to start on softs here. So mediums to hards, you can see Alonso doing softs, so is Verstappen. A lot of hards into the conversation, but very mixed bag of strategy, which is sure to make for an interesting Grand Prix.
Right then, the formation lap gets underway here on the streets of Baku. I suspect the drivers today will be very mindful of that narrow uphill section of the Old Town Wall. It requires pinpoint accuracy, and perhaps more crucially, courage. So as all the cars take their positions on the grid, the teams will be hoping their strategies pay off for them in today's race. The question I'm asking is which teams have got it right, which ones have got it horribly wrong?
All right, we know the race pace is there. Do what you have to do into turn 1.
Yes, sir. Let's have some fun here today, guys. We are ready to roll from P3 off the grid. Alonso on the softs should get going pretty quickly. Of course, he'll be going onto the hards later in the race, or mediums, actually. It might be mediums. We'll have to wait and see, nonetheless. We start on the mediums, looking to go to the hards later. Of course, it's 5 red lights. We're underway here in Baku, and it's a terrible start for Alonso. It's a great start for myself. We're going to look immediately up the inside into turn 1. Contact on the left rear of Russell, a little bit too aggressive. I would get a warning for that contact, but nothing more than that. Alonso down to 4th, maybe to 5th, as Verstappen is trying to go around the outside as well. As you can see, Hamilton slips through into 3rd. Alonso, sure enough, loses a spot to Verstappen, so he goes from 2nd to 5th in just a couple of corners here. That's big, of course, considering he is on a tire advantage right here early on in this race, so very unfortunate now. He'll be on a tire advantage later if he goes to mediums instead of hards as well, but we'll have to wait and see, of course, how it plays out with strategy and whatnot. There's Carlos Sainz scrapping it out with one of the AlphaTauris here now, wheel-to-wheel driving, but now Sainz is able to take the position over Pierre Gasly. As you can see, Oscar Piastri settling in right in front of the 2 Alfa Romeo Haas cars, and once again the AlphaTauris lined up the back of the grid here. The Saubers not looking so hot either, and their newly rebranded liveries there, as actually Ocon runs into the back right there of one of these Saubers, so a little bit of an awkward moment as I myself settle in to P2 here in Baku. 1.5 seconds between myself and George Russell. That gap would increase about 1.6, 1.7, actually barely tapping the barrier. And here was Lewis Hamilton, who unfortunately had run me down, stuck with me all lap long. He would look to my right side. I decided to not fight him on lap 2 of this race, so I let him have the position into turn 1 and kind of went with the mentality of I will see you soon, and this is not a battle that's ending by any means. Lap 3, following him through the castle section, as it looks like there might be something happening behind us. A virtual safety car is going to be deployed. It looks like a McLaren. I think Lando Norris has spun round, it looks like here. That's actually going to bring out a red flag for the first time in Season 2, the second time ever, and the first time since Bahrain, the career mode opener. Look at this. Norris, wow, he actually loses the left rear wheel, so he never spun around, and he would cause a major pile-up behind him, which is why we would get a red flag. So you're going to see, we'll go on board with Norris, and the back end kicks out, and he obviously just slides left rear end first into the barrier. So red flag is going to be out here in Baku. We'll be changing the strategy, and I'm not the only one doing that. So we're going to be switching to softs, then going to hards. Now, our teammate of Alonso on a completely different scenario, but Russell and Hamilton will still be on softs as well. But now, Alonso and Verstappen have switched to hards. This will make it really interesting as we're back for another start here. Lights out again. We're underway post-red flag racing here. Nice to see that red flags even on standard can come out. I don't like to put them to increase. Turn 1, Russell locks up. That's not the first time we've seen a Mercedes lock up into turn 1, of course, after a red flag, as we have seen that with Lewis Hamilton back in 2021. You think about it, that actually was one of the moments where he lost the championship that year, unfortunately. Now, as we continue on, and somehow Alonso was able to hang on for 4th, but he would fall so far back, a second and a half back on those hard tires. So right now, Hamilton, Russell, myself have a huge advantage, as now you can see Russell back to the lead. Russell right now just showing so much pace over Lewis and myself. But I was starting to reel in Lewis, and now DRS enabled here as we got back to lap 7 of this Grand Prix here in Azerbaijan, and we were continuing to close in on this British driver duo as we got that Mercedes and Aston Martin 1, 2, 3, 4. A little bit of contact there, as I don't think Lewis was ready for me to look to the right side. We briefly set the fastest lap of the Grand Prix side by side through turn 1. We'll go around the outside and take the position from Hamilton. So up into 2nd place we go. Alonso in the background there, and Verstappen's been actually overtaken by Leclerc, because Leclerc's also on soft tires while Verstappen's on those hard. So Alonso and Verstappen are going to have an absolutely massive advantage later in this Grand Prix. It's all about what kind of gap can we put between ourselves and them. And here we go, a move for the lead, passing George Russell, topping out at that 218 miles per hour. Just genuinely cannot go any quicker than that. A slip and slide on the exit of turn 1. Russell's going to fight back up the inside. I'm going to try and actually do the little switchback on him. So he was able to pass me, and now we are back up the inside. Now alongside on the left here, he's got the DRS, but we have got so much battery deployed right now going down this back straightaway as yellow flags actually. It's Esteban Ocon and the Alpine who had a rough start to the Grand Prix from the back. You can see he's on the front straightaway out of the Grand Prix. So Ocon with a mechanical failure and out here in Azerbaijan. We have taken the lead here, which is awesome. More yellow flags in Sector 1 a lap later, and it looks like an AlphaTauri. It's Lance Stroll. Yeah, Lance Stroll is back on form. He's spun around, and watch this. The rookie of Nick DeVries said, I want to join in on this, and he just decided he was going to drive into him. It gets worse. So somehow there's no virtual safety car or a safety car or anything, but Stroll backs him across the track, and then DeVries hits him again. Stroll gets going. He's doing like a 7-point turn at this point, but DeVries is able to get through. But both of them, of course, going to have to pit to fix their wing damage, and they would both do that. Lap 12 of 26, still leading by 0.6 of a second, 1.2 over Hamilton. And at the end of this lap, Hamilton comes into the pits, so that kind of forces my hand and George Russell's hand as well. So we're going to be coming into the pits at the end of lap 13 to try and cover off Hamilton from, of course, pulling the undercut. So we head into the pits here. We'll be getting rid of these softs. We'll be putting on a fresh set of hard tires. Alonso cycles through to the lead on his hard set of tires, and I'm pretty confident he's going to be aiming for softs, but I don't know. It depends on how much longer he plans to go. Now, one thing that's a bit unfortunate, we're coming out in traffic. One of the fortunate things, though, is we beat Lewis Hamilton out quite easily. So he's going to be second, net P2 at least, a net P3 for George Russell. So now it's time to get going here and try to put some cars between myself and Lewis to build up enough of a gap to where they're not in the DRS. Here I am getting aggressive up the inside of Kevin Magnussen. This is lap 15 up the inside there of him. We're going to go through up into P5. Perez there in front of us in P4 on the hard tires as well. And we would run him down quite easily here. Down the front straightaway now with my teammate of Alonso into the pit lane. We're going to sweep past Perez in the Red Bull. Now well over a second ahead of Hamilton as he struggled a bit more through traffic. Will we go through to the lead? That's the question. Alonso, that's really the one we're paying attention to. And sure enough, we're ahead through turn 1. So up into P1 we go. Hamilton going to be second. Russell will be third. And Alonso will be in net P4 eventually. He actually had to pass Alex Albon, so lost a little bit of time doing that now. But the gap to Perez, we are not concerned about. He still has to come into the pits here now, but he's really running this run long. Hamilton would get past Perez 1.5 seconds with 10 laps to go. Let's go through the grid.
Could this be the day Owen picks up his first win? He was so close, of course, in China, but has total control of this race, Martin.
All I will say is watch Alonso. He has fresh mediums on that car and is within 5 seconds of the lead with 10 laps to go. That is a very doable task with the advantage he has. Him and his engineer have, I think, chosen a brilliant strategy to go different from the other top three.
And to add on to that, guys, Owen's just been told the situation. Here's a bit of radio.
So just a heads up, Fernando is on mediums, and within 5 seconds I need the most pace you have for 10 laps.
That has to be a bit concerning for him to hear. Also, to add that Russell is reporting a possible issue in the car. We'll keep an eye on that.
Thanks, Ted. Carlos Sainz with a decent run in 9th currently. And how about Oscar in 8th? A nice job taking over after Lando crashing out.
Williams 12th and 13th, not a bad run for them today. Sauber and AlphaTauri, however, continue to struggle early in the season.
All right, there you have through the grid here in Baku now as we continue to lead the way with these final 10 laps underway. And you heard it there, of course, Sauber, AlphaTauri, really not having a good start to the season. Of course, Sauber, I wouldn't be surprised if they have an uptick in performance, not this season, but in the seasons to come, of course, with the interest they have from other brands and takeovers. Now at the end of lap 17, Perez engulfed 3 wide in the middle. Alonso has run down Russell and him. Perez is actually pitting. He still had to pit, so he's just now coming in to do that. But Alonso is going to move through into 3rd place on those fresh mediums. So we thought he might be doing softs, but he goes to mediums, but that still doesn't take away any advantage that he has, as now you can see him 4.3 seconds back. Now Sector 1, the end of Sector 1 and all of Sector 2 was basically where Fernando was gaining all the time. So I could stretch out the gap on the long front straightaway, but Alonso would close that gap back up and then some in the end of Sector 1 and Sector 2. And look at the gap, down to 3.8 seconds. But the gap to Hamilton continues to either stay the same or increase little by little. But yeah, I couldn't do much about Alonso, and Alonso was all over Hamilton at this point now, as we got a yellow flag behind, and it's George Russell. Kravitz, of course, Ted Kravitz said that there might be an issue with Russell, and sure enough there is. He's going to be out of the Grand Prix with a mechanical failure there from P6. Piastri is going to take over 6th place. What a result he could potentially have here today. The battle for second, it's not a contest. Fernando Alonso into P2. He's now just 2.1 seconds back with 5 laps to go here in Baku, and our chances of winning are getting slimmer and slimmer by the second here. Now, as we come through the castle section, we've done everything right, I've thought, in this Grand Prix, in this weekend. I mean, in the sprint, we moved forward past qualifying, of course, and had a good result. We took the lead in this race a little bit before halfway and have not looked back, and now you can see I'm certainly looking back, because Alonso 1.7 seconds back. Verstappen on mediums, Leclerc on softs. Them two were also moving forward and starting to put a little bit of pressure on Lewis Hamilton now, as Verstappen was only 1.8 seconds back from him. And now, Alonso is about to be within DRS. We are coming up on just 2 laps to go, and we are set for a China face-off 2.0, of course. If you remember back in the last episode in the Chinese Grand Prix, a last lap pass from Alonso, we might see a last lap tussle once again. That gap is continuing to come down, especially in, like I said, through that second sector. That was where the time was being made, of course. More grip and just more speed from that medium tire. That's where the big difference is. And sure enough, we start the final lap. Alonso is here within 0.2 of a second. We lead at the start of the final lap here. Into turn 1 we go. Of course, we've led at the start of the final lap in the last episode. I really hope we don't repeat what we did in the last episode. Now, as we go down into turn 2, Alonso has an outright advantage that we can't deny, and we're going to have to push hard to try and win this race. Struggling for grip. Those mediums are still fired up, though, on the Spaniard's car. He's going to look to the right side down this first back straight away. Here we go, down into turn 3. Not going to make this easy, trying to stay ahead, because if Alonso gets ahead through the downforce focus section, he's going to drive away on that grip advantage, so I had to keep him behind there at all costs, and we do. We ran him a bit wide, but we kept it clean. There was no contact involved. He didn't hit anything. That was nice and clean. We hang on now, in control for the time being. 2.3 seconds back is Hamilton, 3.9 for Verstappen, 6.7 for Leclerc, who's not a factor. He is going to get the fastest lap point, it looks like, however, as I definitely don't expect us to go quicker than that. Now, as we head up through the castle section, one final time, hitting all the apexes, getting close to the barriers, not hitting anything, thank goodness. Now, as we got to be very patient on the throttle right here, this is a very easy corner to let that rear end slip out, but we're okay. 0.4 of a second. Now, it's going to be down to 4.5, 0.3 of a second, 3.5, close to 0.2 as we head into the braking zone. Alonso's going to send it up the inside. It's a bold move. He's going to run into us. He puts us in the wall. Our own teammate, of course. We're going to run him all the way to the barrier ourselves as we head down to the final heavy braking zone. We lock up. We run wide. Alonso goes through. We slip and slide. A huge save now. Hamilton to the back of us now. Hamilton's going to move through in a second. Alonso's gotten physical and maybe arguably borderline dirty for the win here in Baku. He's run his own teammate off the road, and then we locked up and screwed up ourselves, so it didn't make it any better. We're going to blow by Hamilton for second place, but Fernando Alonso is going to win in a last lap dramatic turn of events.
That was brilliant stuff from Aston Martin today. What a superb victory. Tell me, Ant, how do they manage to achieve this win?
Well, they certainly stood out as a driver with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
I personally don't agree with what happened there. However, we still might have won the Grand Prix if I didn't make the mistake the second time, so I had that lockup and went wide. And we're going to dissect everything here, but as well, let's hear what I had to say on the top step of the podium. Not the top step, sorry, the second highest step of the podium.
Gary, what are your thoughts on that contact and fight with Fernando?
I'd prefer to not really talk about it, honestly. I got to talk to the team first, and I can tell you that's certainly going to happen. You hear that? Yeah, the talk between the team is going to happen in the next episode at the very start. I can't get a Fernando Alonso AI because it's hard to get his accent, currently at least, with the limitations. When we can, I will. But yeah, We're going to take a look at that finish here, as we will first, though, take a look at the finishing order, as well as we will take a look at the point standings post Baku. We end up second place. There you see 6 points back is Alonso from Hamilton. We know that China, Azerbaijan, Miami are going to really play into the Aston Martin car, and it's proving to do so. It's been a 1-2 for Aston Martin in both of the races that we talked about. Can we do the same thing in Miami? Let's hope, and hopefully we'll be the one at the top step of the podium. And that 103 points back is Ferrari, but we're tied up top with Mercedes, so it is going to be an epic battle, I think, between the two teams. But before we end things, let's take another look at that finish. Here's the full send from Alonso. Don't even blame him, but he runs over the curb, hits us, that puts us in the wall. That was the first moment. The second moment where we lost it, though, after I throw a huge block right here, watch the left front tire right there. It locks up and I slide over the curb after that, and obviously off track and make a huge save. But yeah, it is what it is. Give me your thoughts. Who's in the right? Who's in the wrong? We'll find out maybe from Lawrence Stroll in the next one. That's going to wrap it up for me. I'll see you guys in Miami. Have a great day, everybody.